Okay. Can I move this over? All right, good morning. Morning. It is great to be in God's house with you this morning. I tell you what, thank you for the crews that have been coming out on Wednesdays. Really creating a lot of dust downstairs and doing a great job. So thank you for those that came out. Do truly appreciate it. If you missed that, if you missed the fun, because it is a lot of fun, we are having a good time doing it. It's not all work. We're joking and laughing and it's more like brotherly, sisterly joking, and it's a lot of fun. We're enjoying it. So come on out, enjoy it, and join us Wednesday nights start at 5:30. But if you show up a little late, that's fine. But got a couple projects that are in the full thralls and going to continue to push forward over the next couple of months. We'll cover some more of that during the business meeting, talking about what the plans are and what's going on, just to make sure everybody has the full download of what's happening and why we're creating all the dust and moving classrooms. So thank you for your patience. Praise team practice is going to be moved to Tuesday this week. So that is at 6:30 on Tuesday. And then we do have a business meeting immediately after the morning service. If you are joining us today for the first time, welcome. There is a QR code in the bulletin, so if you would like, scan that QR code. So all you do is go to the camera app on your phone, hover it over that, whether you have an Apple device or an Android device. That will take you to the app that is for our church, and on there is a digital visitor's card. So if you could fill that out, we'd love to have some information to be able to follow up with you. And also it has a lot of good announcements. You can watch online if you happen to not be here. There's a View Online app. And allows you to, if you miss a sermon or miss part of the series, you can go back and listen to it. It's a great filler for your drive time if you need something to do that will allow you to fill it full of things that are healthy and good for you in that downtime. And then there is in blue at the bottom something for what's called Right Now Media. If you're not familiar with that, I would invite you to check that out. It is free. It costs you nothing. It is something similar to a Netflix type application, but it has all faith-based content. So there is a ton of stuff on there for kids. It is downloadable on your smart TV as well. So if you want something that you can put on the TV that they can see, it is a fantastic resource that you can put on and know that whatever they navigate within that, they're going to get good content that is faith-based that will allow them to see good things. We're going to talk more about that today, right? Protecting our kids in a digital age is the name of our where we're at in the sermon series on our family, but we'll get into a little bit of that more. But also besides that, there is faith-based things for adults. There are tons and tons and tons of Bible studies on there and resources for training and different things and it is absolutely free. So take advantage of that, and we're just glad you're here with us this morning. So praise team, why don't you come?
Good morning. Please stand and join us.
All of my days
Please be seated. The ushers come forward this morning. Miles, you say the blessing on this morning's offering.
Dear Lord, thank you for this day. You've given everyone here to be here and learn more about you and your house. And please bless the pastor's message today. And please bless you.
Amen. If you're troubled and heavy-hearted, just come to Jesus and find your peace. And if you're run down and empty-handed, just come to Jesus and find your strength. He is hope for the hopeless, rest for the weary, help for the hurting. He is mending the broken, bearing the burden, all that you're needing. He is. If you're wandering in the darkness, just come to Jesus and find your way. You want freedom and need forgiveness, just come to Jesus and find His grace. He is hope for the hopeless, rest for the weary, help for the hurting. He is mending the broken, bearing the burden, healer and maker of everything, defender, deliverer, King of kings. He is helper and healer forevermore, Savior and shelter through every storm, my refuge, redeemer, and Lord of lords. He is child of heaven and son of man, provider, protector, the great I am, the Alpha, Omega, beginning and end. He is hope for the hopeless, rest for the weary, help for the hurting. He is mending the broken, bearing the burdens, all that you're needing. He is hope for the hopeless, rest for the weary, help for the hurting. He is mending the broken, bearing the burden, all that you're needing. He is all that you're needing. He is. Amen. Amen. Please stand and join us again. All right. Going a little old school right here.
Was lost in sin, but Jesus took me in, and then a little light from heaven filled my soul. He freed my heart in love and broke my name above, and just a little talk with Jesus made me whole. Have a little talk with Jesus, tell him all about our troubles. He
So welcome to Hilltop Community Church. If you're here for the first time, we're excited that you're here. And if you're watching for the first time online today, welcome, and hope you can join us in person sometime. Continuing talking about raising a godly family. You know, I think, as weeks go on, we're on week 9. Is that hard to believe, right? It seems to me that time flies when you're having fun, but for me, there was never a scarier, weightier topic. I think I've said this before, that when I held Carter for the first time, right, my little bitty baby boy who is now going to be 18 here in another week, I remember that day like it was yesterday, and the emotion that greatest describes I felt was fear. Fear that I was now responsible for another life, and as I sit here today, that fear is greater today than it ever was, because he's getting ready to get turned over to the world, right? And everything we've done over the last 18 years of trying to raise a godly family is going to get put to the test, because the world is going to have a chance at him outside of the umbrella of our household. And this is what we work for, right? This is the moment we've all prepared for. It's like you're getting ready to run out that tunnel and go out to the big game, and you say, this is where all the practice happens. This is what everything we did leads up to this moment. And in this moment, you know, we're gonna put to test all the things that we've done. Folks, that happens through hard work and practice and dedication, and those are all things that are important for us as parents to understand, as grandparents, as church members, church family members, is to how are we pouring into our kids. So with that, we'll talk about today, there in the center, protecting our children. Protecting our children specifically in the digital age today. And you know, it's a scary place. I mean, you know, I think of today, and I think of protecting our kids in a digital age, and I think of what's available to them, right? That on this little device, in a matter of a couple of clicks, I can see things today that it would have taken me a lot more work 20 years ago to go find. But yet, we have parents who are handing kids devices without filters, without anything on them, and expecting that they're just going to stay away from the temptations that are out there in the world. So let me ask you this question. For some of us that are stuck in older ages, right? Imagine for yourself, I don't know why my brother just tapped my mom and dad on the shoulder, but imagine if you might, these are catalogs for Mother's Day supplies, so I don't want you to believe that I'm up here holding what I'm going to ask you to imagine these are, but imagine that this was a Playboy and a penthouse. Would you have gone to your 13 or 14-year-old kid and said, here, I'm going to throw these down, but don't look at them? What do you think is going to happen? Well, folks, that's what we're doing today. When we hand them a device and it's unfiltered, we're giving them freedom to go look at and see whatever you can imagine. And I'm telling you what, a Playboy and a penthouse from the 80s is very tame compared to what they can see on the internet today in just a couple of clicks. Folks, if you don't recognize today that it is an incredibly dangerous and scary place to be, well, then you're in the right place today, because when our guest speaker comes on here in a minute and we talk about what it is and how it shapes the human mind and what that does to young men and young women, is absolutely crazy. So my goal for today is to absolutely scare you to death. And it's to train and to educate and to teach you the importance of it, because there's a biblical background that says that we should protect our children, that we should do everything we can. And the world is not the same today as what it was. That we can't just assume, well, I was fine and I grew up in this world. The world today is different than the world it was just 20 years ago, and we're going to talk about that. So in order to do that, we've been talking about these kind of core things. I highlighted them in red today, right? Because red to me is danger, right? Red means, you know, that it's scary, that you need to really care. Folks, I'm telling you as parents, there are 3 things on here. You have a responsibility to your children to protect them. that it is your job first and foremost. Like I knew when Carter got held in my hands for the first time, I felt a sense of I would give my life for this child. That if it meant stepping in front of the bus to pull him out of the way, I was willing to do that. But yet, we don't have that same ferocity to care for our kids when it comes to protecting them in a digital age, that we just act like it's willy-nilly and it's not a big deal, and that if their soul gets consumed, that's okay. Folks, I'm telling you that as vehemently as we protect them physically, we need to protect them spiritually and emotionally with protecting them from the digital age. It will take sacrifice and commitment, that it is hard. It's not easy. I give all the credit to my wife, I'm telling you what, because I'm not that tough of a person. That she said many times, and then she will tell you when she gets up here, this is a topic that she knows way more than I do about this. And I concede to her because why? She's put the time in. She's been committed. She's made the sacrifice to say, I'm going to be certain that our kids aren't at risk. Why? Because I love them. Folks, if you love your kids this morning, this will be the topic that you need to take home and talk about and make sure that you are 100% buttoned up on. And if you are not, that's okay. Just like we talked about every week leading up to this, there's a starting point, right? That starting point either happened for you a long time ago or it starts today. But the starting point is today, if you're sitting here today and those things aren't done, and you move forward. And we change, and we do things better. You can't undo the past, but you can move forward in a new direction, and we will train, we will educate. Sarah said, look, I could teach a class for days on this. Y'all worried about me being long-winded. You ain't met the other Benton yet, right, up here on this stage. And I'm not talking about my dad either. Yes. It's genetic. It's okay. But it will take all of these things. So, in order to get started, though, before we do, we're going to go back to God's Word, and we're going to talk about a time when the world was changing, right? And we see that the nation of Israel was coming out of Egypt, and their world was different. They'd been in slavery for several hundred years. They had only known the world, that they were dealing with kids and a life where they had only known slavery, and Moses and Aaron were bringing them out, and they crossed the Red Sea, and they were coming out, and then all of a sudden they had freedom for the first time, right? They had the freedom of not being under the oppression of the Egyptians, and they were in a new world, and we see that God gives them some clear direction, right? Why? He gives them the 10 Commandments, because he says, you guys need rules to live by, you need to understand why, and he goes into explaining to them the importance of why they need to have those and instill them upon their children. For their good, for their protection. So we're going to open our Bibles to Deuteronomy chapter 6, and we're going to talk about this, because technically Moses was the first person with a tablet downloading data from the cloud. Right? That was a dad joke. It's great. I love it. I love it. But that's what we're going to talk about today. So open, if you would, to Deuteronomy chapter 6, and we're going to start off in verse 1, and we're going to read through verse 9. It says, now, this is the commandment, and these are the statutes and judgments which your Lord your God has commanded to teach, that you observe them in the land crossing over to possess, that you may fear the Lord your God and keep all his statutes and his commands which I commanded you, you and your sons and your grandsons, all the day of your life, and that your days may be prolonged. Okay, wait, hold on a minute. Now, we talked a few weeks ago about a verse that said, honor your mother and father. Why? So that it will go well with you. It is a command with a promise, right? We said there are only a few of them in the Bible. This is another one, right? It says that you would go into the new land, that you would observe them in the land which you're crossing over to, so that you may fear the Lord your God, right? And keep all the statutes and his commandments, which I command you, and your sons and your grandsons, all the days of your life, that your days may be prolonged, right? So he's giving us a promise that if we do these things, that it will go well with us. So there's a promise for this. Right? Look, if anybody here raising teenagers, you know, it ain't easy. Okay? Do you want it to go better or do you want it to go worse? Which one? Right? Have you ever looked at your teenager and said, I feel like you're shortening my life right now? Right? Okay. This is a command with a promise that says, I want my days to be prolonged. I want it to go well with my teenager. Therefore, I'm going to do what God says here and teach him to fear God and to follow the commandments and to do what he's supposed to do. So it says, therefore, hear, O Israel, and be careful to observe it, that it may be well with you and that you may multiply greatly, as the Lord God our fathers have promised you, a land flowing with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. God gives them for the first time the greatest commandment that Jesus quotes in Matthew, right? When he gets challenged by the Pharisees and says, what is the greatest commandment? He quotes Deuteronomy. And he says to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, body, and soul. That is priority number one that we are to instill in the hearts of our children. Well, folks, I'm going to tell you that nothing in history has ever competed more for your child's heart than this thing right here. You want to find out? Take it away for a couple days. See what happens. See how mad they are. See how much they like you when that's said and done. Look, folks, I'll be honest with you right now. My kids will tell you, I don't care if they like me. Not right now. One day, they will figure it out. And one day they will. It's not about them liking me. It's about them respecting me, honoring me, and one day they will thank me. There's nothing competing for their heart more than you could ever imagine than that thing. And it says, these words I command you that shall be in your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk to them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. Folks, I don't know about you, but that's all the time. Right? There's nothing inside the world that's not captured within that statement. And it says, you shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be at the frontlets between your eyes, right on your forehead. You know, if you ever sat there and said, well, I'm going to write that on your forehead so that you remember. That's what God's saying. He's saying, this is so important. You ding-dongs, you can't figure it out, you can't get it. I'm going to write it on your forehead so that every time you look in the mirror, every time you see it, you're going to think of it. That's how important this is. And you shall write them down on the doorposts of your home and on your gates. So everything physically on your hands so that I can see it, on my forehead that I can see it, and my home, every part of my life, whether I lay down, whether I sit up, whether I'm walking, standing, sitting, eating, it doesn't matter, that everything should be about I love God more than anything else. You see, as they were coming out of Egypt, they were coming out of years of slavery and years of living under the Egyptian oppression. They were living the Egyptian lifestyle. And God said he recognized they were coming into a new world. They were coming to a new world with all of these freedoms that they had never been given before. And the one direction that God is so imperative to implore to them is that they need to love God more than anything else. Folks, we live in that new world today. This is a scary thought. Because my mind immediately goes to, is that little girl looking at that phone and thinking, well, that little girl's prettier than I am? And her self-esteem is tanking at age 3 because somebody else has something that she doesn't, and she feels insignificant. And she doesn't feel as pretty or as loved or as, oh, well, such and such, you know, over in Miss whatever's kindergarten class, she got flowers today and I didn't get flowers. And next thing you know, she feels like she's not as important. Folks, at this young age, the only thing they should be worrying about is running and playing and being loved by mom and dad, and being taught in Sunday school about who Jesus is and how much Jesus loves her. But instead, she's faced with the world and everything that this new freedom can give her to show her that's at her fingertips that can entertain her mind, instead of the one and only true thing that can fill that hole inside her heart, which is Jesus Christ. Folks, if we don't recognize today that we have crossed over, and it ain't the promised land, I'll tell you that. If I could go back in time and destroy all of it, I would. Because while it does do some things good, I think it does more bad than it does good. But it's here, The reality is we can't change that, right? Time travel is not a real thing, at least not for me. So what are we left with? We're left with choices in the new world. Here's some scary statistics. The average age to receive their first smartphone today, well in 2018, was 10.3 years old. That was the national average of when kids got their own smartphone. Today, just 3 years later, that's down to 8.7 years old. That the average 8-year-old is running around with an iPhone in their pocket that is unbridled, that has full access to the internet, that allows them to go see whatever they want. And we have 8, 9, and 10-year-olds that are coming to school today showing our kids pornography. Folks, that's scary. I said today I wanted to scare you first, and then I'm going to bring out the person that's going to tell you how to not be afraid. Okay? The new generation is called the iGen, right? Because they've not known anything but having the internet and a smartphone for their entire life. That they were born in an age when smartphones existed. That my generation is the last one, or one of the last ones, that was actually born that didn't know the internet. So for them, this is normal, but for us, we see the stark difference. Here's the difference. Teens between the age of 16 and 18, their work rate is down 38% from what it was 20 years ago. We wonder why they don't want jobs, why they don't want to leave our basements. Look, folks, I've told my kids real clear, that ain't a choice for you. Okay, that you're going to go out in the world, you're going to get a job, you're going to go do these things. Why? Because they need to. They also perceive that they are always accessible, that they are always online. That they sleep with their phones next to their bed and they can get pinged at 2 o'clock in the morning and their sleep is disrupted and all these bad things that we're going to go into here in a minute. They live siloed lives that if you talk to them, they feel more isolated than any generation ever in history, but yet they're more connected digitally than ever before. They also perceive people based on and form judgments based on what you post online. So they form opinions about who you are as a person based upon the content of little snippets or fragments of data that you put online. Here's the scariest number. 1 out of 4 claim to have no affiliation with God. That is the highest rate of people that claim no affiliation with a deity, with a God of any kind, ever in modern recorded history. Depression is up 21% in that iGen generation and up 50% in girls. Folks, tell me that it's good. Tell me that it's good for them. Tell me that this isn't a direct result of 1 + 1 = 2. The world hasn't changed. There's still grass growing outside. The sun came up. It rains. It snows. There's food on the table. Right? All those things, those are constants. The thing that's changing in this new world is the digital age that is supposed to be the thing that brings us all of what we want. But yet, why is it that everything's headed in the wrong direction? Folks, that's where we are just willingly ushering our children and saying, go walk right off the cliff. It's okay. It's for your good. It feels good. Do it. Just go ahead. Go right off the cliff. And we're just watching them. That's why we're here today. So the big facts, right? I like big facts. We're living in a new world. It's not the same place that you grew up in. And folks, I'm challenging you, right? Some of us, look, I'm at the age right now that, if I was living, I couldn't reset the time on my VCR, okay? It would be, hey, Carter, come reset the time on the VCR because I don't want to figure it out, right? Most people don't even know what a VCR is, right? That's why I'm dating myself. But I'm saying we don't live in that world anymore, that we need to educate ourselves, that it may be scary. It may be difficult to think about. The technology scares me, right? I'm not as connected as I used to be. That the more time that goes by, the further and further I fall behind. We've got to put the work in. We've got to be dedicated. We've got to come to the table willing to work and say, in this new digital, dangerous technology age, I've got to protect my children, which means I've got to be one step ahead of them. And it's our job to protect our children. That if there was a lion or a bear or something in front of them, I would vehemently protect them physically, that we need to have that same tenacity to protect them spiritually. So that's why we're here. So without further ado, I'm going to invite our guest speaker to come up. I'm going to get her a chair so she can sit. You got a chair? You going to stand? All right. And the illustrious Dr. Sarah Benton. No, I'm just kidding. She's not a doctor. But she does have a master's degree in psychology and sociology as a school social worker. And so she does come with an educational background that does support this. She uses her master's degree mostly on me, okay, just so you're curious. And that's where that comes into play. But she does have some things to say, and we're going to go through 10 tips today. So we may run a bit over today because guess what? This is the most important thing you're going to do right now, right? And it is what it is. So we're going to make sure that we get through the content, and we're also going to, if you would like, set up follow-ups because it is a lot, right? And there is a lot to learn. Sarah's learned this over the last, 10 years of managing digital devices with kids, but it is something that literally within an afternoon you can set up at home and we can teach you how to do that. So if you walk away from this saying, great, I hear what you're saying, but my mind's blown, we can, if you are interested, either one-on-one or as a group, set up some training to walk you through each one of these. So a favorite verse of yours that your mom instilled in you was Proverbs 4:23. And that verse says, keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it springs the issues of life. That protecting their heart is important.
So this is a verse my mom drove into us over the years. To say that, I'm gonna throw out a couple plugs. One is to my mom, and if you ask my kids what Grandma Joe says, garbage in, garbage out. I can't not tell you how many times I heard that growing up. What are you listening to? What are you watching? What are you reading? Garbage in, garbage out. Oh, you've got a bad attitude? Where's your head been? What have you been filling your life with? So that's one plug for my mom. The second would be Right Now Media. It's on our bulletin. I'm listening to a Bible study in James. So if everything, we're supposed to protect our heart because out of that springs life. James warns us that life and death is found in the tongue. So you listen to kids talk today. You listen to adults talk today. It's mean. It's nasty. What are we filling our lives with? So I put this in the back of the bulletin and then asked him if he could throw it up there because I think, yes, technology is scary, but it also isn't. I have a dozen apps on my phone that I can open up to get Bible verses or to watch Christian content. It goes both ways. So I've had a cold. So what are they seeing? What are they saying? What do we do? What do we hear? That all comes from our heart. So I wanted to add to some of what he was saying earlier about some of the scary stats he threw up there. I love to read. I read all the time. I brought 3 books with me that if anybody wants to see them, there's a lot of good content. Our kids, they might hate me sometimes, but they had to read a book before we would ever allow them to have any type of social media. It tells them how to be safe. It tells them half of what you read online isn't real. It's what people want you to see. But one book that I've actually just started, it's called Screens and Teens, talks a lot about the digital age. And there's a quote in here that, I didn't even get past the introduction, and I was like, good night. But in the foreword, they talk about, and this kind of hit home, because we have a son that will be hopefully going to college very soon, and this was a mom, and...
Not hopefully, he is.
Okay, he is.
He's leaving.
I mean, yeah. So...
if it comes down to, the Christmas story, you'll shoot your eye out, kid, ho, 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 you're
No,
going to
I've
school.
not
Yeah,
seen it.
he's going.
I've not seen that movie.
Okay.
So, I wasn't allowed to watch a lot of stuff growing up. So I've actually never seen it. So, I know, right? But these parents are at their son's school because he's only been there 2 weeks and he wants to come home. I can't do this. I can't figure things out. I'm not succeeding. So they were good parents and they thought they had trained him. So they went and meet with the school, and what the president said was, and this kind of was it was eye-opening. He said these words: "I'm finding that this generation of kids does not know how to persevere. We talked about how today's teens are accustomed to quick wins in front of a video screen. They fix problems with one click to cut and another click to paste. Thanks to the internet, information can be found at young people's fingertips without much effort to research, dig, and come to conclusions on their own. When fixes aren't so quick and easy, their first impulse is to give up. And outside of the dangers of what they can see, that is something that in some ways is very easy to fix. That drive to persevere is not. And we see it, I will say we see it in our kids. I've seen it in other teens that when it doesn't come like that, I'm done. I don't want to figure it out. I was joking with Morgan. I'm like, our kids don't know the Dewey Decimal System or how to look a book up at a library because they've never had to. I'm just going to Google it and maybe I'll find the answer. Wikipedia knows everything. Not true, kids. Not true. Nope. So this started for me because we were looking at smartphones or looking at even things like getting the kids an Xbox and what you can access there. It's literally everywhere. So to add a little more scary to the scary, when he says the average age of the first glance of pornography is 8, and it's actually getting younger because parents are handing kids smartphones that are not protected. And in some ways, I don't think it's out of ignorance, and I don't say that in a bad way, but it's out of a lack of knowledge. It's not. My first phone was a Nextel, so my dad could ping me on the walkie-talkie. I sometimes wish we could still do that, but it wasn't a smartphone. I bought my first smartphone, and so when we started looking at stuff, and actually when we were getting him a phone at 16, I'm like, I want a flip phone. Then we decided that wasn't a good idea. I still would like to get them all flip phones. But the accessibility is there. You can't hide from it. So he had 10 tips.
Yeah. And I think this one goes into, we've forced our kids to read a book that if they wanted any type of social media, and they also know there are certain social medias that are off limits. You know, I mean, you look at Snapchat, right? All my friends have Snapchat. Well, if you go within Snapchat, there are 2 clicks. 2 clicks that you can get to what's called Snapchat After Dark. There's no way to block it. The app does not allow you the ability to do that. You go to Snapchat After Dark, and what they see are nighttime activities that are basically pornography with a little bit of clothes, just enough to make it make sense from not being technically pornography. Okay, my kids will never have Snapchat. I'm sorry. I love you. When you're 18 and you pay your own cell phone bill and you buy your own, you can do whatever you want. But until then, I will protect you because that is my job. You know, and because of that, it's just not an option for them, right? We can have naivety to say that they will never go to those things or they'll never do those things. Well, I've told them not to. Okay, sure. How well does that work out with everything else? It doesn't, right? Because if you tell them not to, that makes them want to do it 5 times as much. But also from a impressionability standpoint, the statistics of kids who are on social media and their self-worth and their self-esteem, that's played out in the depression statistics. Because all they see are all these other kids that have all these things that they want, and it creates in them this sense of self-worth that I must not be good enough because I don't have all these things, and I want, and it breeds in them this selfishness that is undescribable, that's an unfathomable amounts. I mean, I had to know a kid that had something to be able to be jealous. Now you can get online and be jealous of 8 million kids who are on TikTok, you know, and YouTube making videos about all the stuff they've got.
Who knows what FOMO is? Raise your hand. FOMO. Hey, Claire, what's FOMO? Fear of missing out.
Yeah.
So kids today struggle with the fear of missing out. Adults are starting to struggle with the fear of missing out. Anxiety and depression, it's not just, he gave a depression stat, but anxiety in teens today is off the chart and climbing. They're linking a lot of it to just time spent in front of a screen, not necessarily even non-social media, but that's part of it. But yeah, the fear of, well, shoot, you know, he's doing this, but, you know, Susie's doing this, and I just don't know. Like, if I do this and I can't do, I've watched my kids try to make decisions. I'm like, I'm going to throw you. Just make one. I don't care what you do or who you hang out with, but reality is you're going to miss out on something. Like, I love you. I'm sometimes blunt. I don't know, sarcastic. you're going to miss out on stuff. Like, that's life. You can't do everything. There's 24 hours in a day. So,
Yep.
Delane, we have found with our kids has been a good thing. If anybody wants the book, a lot of teens might hate me. I
Well,
don't really care.
and-
It's a good book. I'm reading the book. It's a good book. It's a good book. Claire, good book? I can get Claire to kind of say yes.
But it also warns them about the dangers of social media is the number one place that people will bait your children for, from a sex predator standpoint, right? I mean, you look at almost 100% of it comes through social media. Well, am I going to give my 8 or 9-year-old, and this goes beyond just social media, it goes to Xbox Live chat rooms, right, and different things, that we have those things shut off, right? Because why? I listened in for a day, and I heard what some of the other people were saying, and I was like, oh my, your little ears don't need to hear those words. You may hear them at school, and you may hear them occasionally on TV, but you don't need to be exposed to this much, inundated with that stuff, because the things they say is not okay.
So on the not extreme side, you can also block it, so it's just their friends, which is
Yes.
where our kids have ended up.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, he still wants to smack talk with Keith every now and then, playing, playing
Keith,
a
you are my
baseball
favorite
game or
person to
whatever.
listen to.
Yes,
I'm just saying, on Xbox.
yes. So, delaying smartphones as long as possible. I mean, this is one that we said when there's a safety issue that you're driving, you're at a practice, I need to know when to pick you up, you're in high school and beyond, that there is a need for that. I mean, look, folks, I got dropped off and picked up and I got to all those places just fine as a teenager, and I didn't have one, okay? I am somewhat grateful that they didn't have Life 360 on me. If you don't know what that is, it tracks where you go, what you do, how
How
fast
fast?
you're going, whether there was hard stopping or hard braking or hard acceleration. I'm really glad that didn't exist, okay, because they might have found out more than I wanted them to know. But for our kids, it will ping them, And so there are 4 apps across the bottom. And when they do get a smartphone, when you do decide that age is appropriate, I'm telling you right now, it's not 8, it's not 10, it's not 12. That in our household, it's high school because you're driving, right? And if you get in an accident, Life 360 will send us a ping, and it'll send the police a ping stating that there was a G-force impact greater than what should be normal, and it will recognize, and people's lives have been saved, okay? That's the good part of the technology I can buy into. Life 360 allows that. On the far left is Google Family. If you are still, in the archaic Android ages, if you just won't convert, whatever, if you're one of those people, whatever, that's cool. Google Family does a lot of good stuff. Bark is next to that. It's something that's on every one of our kids' phones and devices, that if they're going places and seeing things that they shouldn't, it has an algorithm that will detect that, and it sends us a message. And it says, hey, they looked at something today that they shouldn't have, or they said something today in a text message that was violent, or they said something today in a text message that got pinged for, something that was bullying, And some of it's a little, they're like, whatever. They're just messing
Medically
with each other.
concerning content.
Yes. So Bark is a great app that does that. And then on the far, Life 360, we already talked about a little bit on the far right, is an app called Screen Time that is on the iPhones that allows you to limit. So our kids have a limit every day. That even though they've been given the smartphone as a tool to use, that after an hour or 2 hours or whatever that reward dictates for them, it shuts off. And it says, you're done for the day. Goodbye. Some of you adults might need that. I'm just saying. I'm going to throw that out there. I probably do, right? That it makes you use your time wisely, but delaying smartphones as long as possible. Anything else
I
about that
agree.
one? She agrees. The expert agrees. All right. Take control of the Wi-Fi. You'd be surprised at how many people that I know that they lock their kid's phone down just for them to go out on the black market, aka school, and buy an old device off a friend and bring it home and jump on the Wi-Fi so that they had an uncontrolled device to be able to use in the background because mom and dad locked it down. Lock down your Wi-Fi. Your kids should not have your Wi-Fi password. Our kids do not have our Wi-Fi password. If you want on the Wi-Fi, bring me your device and I will add you, but I'm not giving you my Wi-Fi password. Why? Because I don't want you to add a device that I don't know about. So because of that, I have full control over the Wi-Fi in my house. And by the way, if you really don't want to do your chores, I can go into my phone and push this one little magic button that says, you're done. And that means no more Wi-Fi for you. Why? Because it is not something that they are guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? Okay. Connect without smartphones. This is something that we do. I don't think we do enough of. This is going to be a phone-free day, or this is going to be a phone-free car ride,
These are my favorite
or
days.
this is going to be a phone-free afternoon. We don't allow phones at the dinner table. And we still try to have a family dinner as much as possible where we sit around the table and talk about our day and talk about what that looks like. I know every family dynamic is different, and that's not always possible, but as much as possible, have phone-free or technology-free time. Why? Because they don't always have to have that stupid thing in front of their face. And if that's the only way they can interact with you, it always drives me nuts. We were at some friend's house last night, and they had a question. A child had a question for an adult, and they were one room over, and they're texting. And she's like, "Why are you texting me? You're a room away. Come talk to me." Because they get so reliant upon that's the only way they want to communicate. That's not healthy. We were designed and made to be relational beings. Relationships do not happen through typing on a keyboard. They happen through looking somebody in the eye and having a conversation. How many of our kids today that you go to talk to them and they're talking to you like this? Because they don't know how to be relational, that they don't know how to reach up and shake your hand and say, "Hello, welcome, how are you?" I'm going to look you in the eyes and we're going to make a connection that is relational instead of, "I'll just text you later."
Hey, wait, that was one of my favorite ones. Hang on a second.
Oh, wait. Can we go
So
back?
connected without smartphone. This is one of my favorites because crazy if you want to get scientific about a lot of it. The brain synapses and the way that a teenager's brain works and looks like because of the inundation of technology is different. And you'll see it with little kids and how long can you grab their attention. It's not very long. Because they're so used to flipping from this to this. I watch my kids on the computer. I check their grades, even though they're all in high school. Make sure they're still doing well. I have to take their computer. I can't. They're like here and then there. They're, "Oh my." Yeah. I'm like, stop. Like, you have 17 screens open right now. What is going on? But they're so quick. Everything is quick. Cooper can barely sit still. He's always moving. It's always something.
Or drumming.
That's because he plays the drums. But scientifically, they're seeing there's disconnects in the way, if you look at a brain of somebody who's inundated with a smartphone, or it doesn't just have to be a smartphone, but technology all the time, versus those who are not, their brains just work differently. It is hard to have a conversation with teenagers, even younger people, just in general, because they lack some of the social skills. We forced our kids not to. We force conversation. Sometimes it is awkward. They're teenagers. But there's a detox that has to happen. So we like to camp. We go camping. No phones are allowed camping. So my phone gets put up. His phone gets put up. The kids can have them, but they're not allowed on them. So you can have them on the drive down. There are some camping trips that things are not super enjoyable for about 5 or 6 hours, because they just want to be on their stuff, and we don't want them on their stuff. Take a little bit after that, and they actually start to chill and relax, but it takes a while. If just in general, you're on a phone, I like to read on a Kindle. A blue light filter, I would recommend that for anybody. Mm-hmm. The blue light affects sleep and not being able to sleep at night. So if you're on a device late at night, or it can affect that. My glasses, when I wear my glasses, they're blue light filtering. But we love to play board games. Like, that can't happen if you're sitting on I mean, it can. It's super annoying. I'm just saying. So that connecting without smartphones is one of my favorites. You can go now.
All right.
I don't have control.
Stair-stepping technology over the years. I mean, teaching kids the dangers and teaching them what it is and allowing them to ease into it. Starting off with limited times. I don't know how many times I see parents utilizing what I call the digital babysitter. That, hey, I need you to be quiet right now, so I'm going to use you for that. If you do that, do it sparingly. I'm not going to say that I've never done it. Okay?
We did it.
There were times that we did, but it was a reward not for bad behavior. So if they were misbehaving, they did not get rewarded with that. Okay, because if you reward them for bad behavior with the technology, what are they going to do? Well, they want more of it. It's addictive. It's proven that. They're going to act up more so that they can get it more. That's not why you want to do it. It needs to be the exact opposite. You've got to be very careful, but stair-step that technology over the years.
That was good.
Okay. No screens in private, no compromise. I'm sorry. Your kids have no business with a phone outside of where you can see over their shoulder. And so we don't allow phones in the bedrooms. We don't allow phones in private. We don't allow phones to go to the bathroom. We don't allow phones to go anywhere except for the main room where everybody's at. Same thing for computers, tablets, whatever that is. Why? Because kids are really smart, okay? I mean, kids figure out ways around filters. Kids figure out, they have friends. They have friends who are smart, right? They have friends who their dad's in IT and he taught them how to do this trick to get around that filter, okay? We've seen it. So because of that, this is a fail-safe that will allow you to hopefully curb some of that they need to not have that.
Well,
in
and for
private.
accountability in general, like I tell my kids all the time, if you're shutting down what you're looking at because I'm walking behind you, that's a problem. You can look at barring Christmas, so shop online. You can grab my phone and you're not going to see anything. If you want to take my phone right now, I've looked up puppies, rabbits, and chickens. So that is what my search history is. Go ahead,
Hey,
open
at
it
least
up.
we're off the miniature cow, okay?
He
at
said-
least we moved beyond to smaller things.
This rabbit is huge.
Yes. But I would say that goes for my wife as well. That my phone is an open book to her. And hers is an open book to me, that at any given time I can pick up her phone, and that is what it should be. Right? Because there's nothing that I have to hide from her, and if I do have something to hide from her, then that's a problem, right? That we have an issue. And because of that, we have full freedom to be able to go and to do that at any given time. All right, this next one, it's a reward, not a right. Our kids are required to keep an 83% or higher. That if they don't keep an 83% or higher in their grades, guess what? No phone. We have the ability through screen time, we can go lock their phone down that says the only thing they can do is call mom and dad or text mom and dad. And that's it, nothing else. Right? They're not allowed to do anything else. And I will step back a couple into the stair-stepping technology, that when our first kids got a smartphone, they were only allowed to add contacts or to download apps if we gave them permission first. That within screen time, you can set all that up. So I don't want them to be able to create contacts to put people in their phone that I don't know. Right? That at first, we kept that under control to say, you're not just going to be texting or calling anybody that you desire. It's going to have to be people that we know and approve of, right? So we got the ability, you want to add grandma and grandpa? Yeah, that's fine. You want to add Brian and AJ? Yeah, that's cool. You want to add Russ? Maybe no, I'm just kidding. No, but we were allowed to, I got to pick on somebody, no, Russ is a good guy. But, we stair-step that technology, but it is a right for them, and they know that if my grades fall below a certain point, or if I don't get my chores done, or if I disobey, if I lie, or whatever, their punishment immediately is going to be your phone's shut off, and you can call or text mom and dad. Life 360 still works. I still have all the benefits from a parental standpoint, that I know where they're going, I know what they're doing, and I know how they're driving. But beyond that, they don't have the ability to do all the fun stuff that comes with it. That phone becomes a paperweight in their pocket that's a safety device. And it is a reward, not a right. You are not entitled to have a phone. It is not God's given. God said you get to eat, breathe, sleep, and have a phone. That didn't happen. Anything else?
No,
Okay,
you're doing really good.
good. Each child responds differently. Our three kids are all very different and adjust to technology differently. It has a different draw for each one of them. And I think each child is going to have a different response to technology. Anything to add to that?
No, that being said, kids respond differently, yes, and we've had to sometimes adjust what works and what doesn't. It's like anything. Consequences, rewards. Like if I gave Claire baseball cards, she'd be super pumped. No, she would not. But for Cooper, that's a great reward. So even going to the one before, some of that looked different. You have to be fluid and flexible. He gave the example of the grades. That's because our kids are all very capable. If we had a kid that was struggling, I would not make that
Correct.
you can't hard and fast. But yes, each kid responds differently. Each adult responds differently too.
All right. The next one, have digital discipline. This one comes to the parents, that you have to be disciplined. This takes work. Okay, it takes effort to learn, effort to manage, effort to keep up with, and it is easy to take the easy road, to give in, to not hold fast, to do what I say, right, as a parent, that if you say, if you do that, I'm going to take your phone away, it means you better take their phone away. And if it means you know you're going to take their phone away, it means maybe not physically, but you better know how to digitally shut it down. But in order to learn all those things, it takes work, it takes effort. You have to be able to put in the time and the effort and the discipline. I talked earlier about running out onto the field, right, and getting ready for the big game, and this is the moment we've all prepared for. As parents, you've got to prepare. You've got to, have the discipline to go learn, and if you don't know, ask questions. I'm telling you right now, there's an expert amongst your midst, and I pump her up into a lot of different ways, but this is an area that I'm telling you that she has a tenacity that if she does not know, she will know. Because she does not accept failure in this department. It's just not possible. That it's not going to happen. So if you have a question that's unsolvable or unfixable, I'm telling you, come ask her. I'm putting her on point here. She's looking at me like, well, maybe. I'm telling you, we've never had a problem that she couldn't find a solution for. We've tried 20 different apps, and we've filtered through what are the best ones and the right ones that do everything that we need for our needs, but it may not fit your needs. She will be able to either know or find out or ask somebody who knows. So use those in your digital discipline.
I'm going to flip the script a little bit. To me, having digital discipline also means that, my phones are, I don't know where my phone's at half the time, but that thing can't rule me either. So if I'm expecting my kids not to have phones at the dinner table, my phone needs to not be at the dinner table. If I expect my kids to look me in the eye and have a conversation with me, my phone needs to be set down. So, and that is not easy because there are times that the kids are talking and I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about right now. Yep, yep, and it's easy. It's easy to sit and to scroll and to Facebook's the biggest time waste ever. I have Facebook. I'm on Facebook. But if I'm expecting from them, then I need to be willing to also work to discipline myself. And I will say neither of us are perfect and neither of us always have a handle on that. But I think that one goes both ways. If you want to teach it, you have to have it.
Yep. And we hold each other accountable to that because there are times when we've had to bring it to each other's attention in love.
Yep, and love.
Mm-hmm. All right, the last one is somewhat of a repeat, but have phone-free zones that are hard and fast, right? That I know that you want to make phone-free time separately, but also have phone-free zones. The car, you'd be surprised that if you make kids turn in their phone, what they will say to you in the car. It is like psychologically there's something that says, we're going to get in the car and I'm going to spill my guts to you. Blah. Why? Because you have a captive audience and they don't have to look you in the eye. They can look at the back of your head. And they don't have that fear of what's mom and dad's face going to tell me because they don't hide their emotions very well. And so what does that mean? I can just say things and they can't reach me to hit me and they have to focus on the road and I can just say it. And for whatever reason, because of that, they word vomit. Well, if they're sitting there staring at a screen, they're not going to talk.
The other time kids are most likely to talk is right before bed.
Bedtime, yes.
So if they're always on a phone or they take the phone and not, my kids have tried. Like, they're not perfect. They're good kids. They're not perfect. I need an alarm clock. I'm like, oh, let's get you an alarm clock.
Yeah.
You don't need your phone.
Old school. Beep, beep, beep,
I need
beep. Oh, yeah.
I need Snapchat because that's how my teacher communicates with me. That's a problem. No, you do not. So it's like they've tried. I just read too much for them. But I think overall our kids are fairly well adjusted and adapted. Yes, Russ.
Quick question. Because you have a degree,
Oh, dear.
what does the experts say? Like when we were kids, okay, we went outside, we played baseball, we tried to do everything outside. We had our chores, we had to get done first, all those things. Where did it change and what is it that just grabs people so much or the kids so much to these things to where they'd rather sit in the house, not all of them, but they'd rather sit in the house and look at this than get outside with their friends. What does the experts say that change is?
So
It's not probably one answer.
no, that's kind of lengthy.
Instantaneous gratification. They can get a reward instantly, and going outside is work. It becomes this trade-off for physical exertion versus meeting an ends to a mean to an ends of an immediate satisfaction by something that I can gain.
And I don't have to work very hard.
And I don't have to work very hard to get it.
I would recommend if anybody has Netflix, I know that's also a topic that ours is locked down, but The Social Dilemma is a movie that I would recommend. It's not just kids.
How many of you have seen The Social Dilemma? Right?
The movie is
Did it scare the behoozits out of you or what? Like, I walked away from that going, we're doomed.
no, but it's
But it's
spot
so,
on.
It's so spot on and so healthy. If you have not watched it, you have a homework assignment this week. Watch it before you come back next Sunday. I'm serious. Like, I'm challenging you as your pastor, saying you need to go home. You need to watch this. You need to make this a priority this week and educate yourself on how bad that it really is, because you will find that the statistics are that the majority of CEOs of these large tech companies do not allow their kids to have any devices until they're 18 years old.
Or at all.
Or at all.
Yeah.
Why? Because they recognize how bad they are, but they're selling you a product that people become addicted to.
People,
And it
not
makes
just
money.
not just teens.
Yes.
The movie blew me away, to be completely honest, and made me want to learn more. But I think it goes back to what that president said for the college. Like, there's a lack to persevere, and you gain perseverance through long suffering. Well, if you're not willing to suffer long for anything, then it's a bit of I want what I want and I want it now. We have microwaves. We have an air fryer like, it's not just the digital age, but I will say it's super convenient to look something up on Google. Not gonna lie. But even Google, we've taught our kids, Wikipedia is not the expert. You need to actually find things that are if you're gonna do research that way. And we're almost done. I think he's got one more slide. But the one thing that I want to say is this is a passion of mine because it feeds into everything else. If I can get my kids to be and myself more disciplined, this device doesn't have a hold over me. I tell them all the time, I could take my device and toss it. Give me a flip phone. I don't care. But if I can teach them to be disciplined in one area, discipline's hard. I played sports for 17 years. It is hard. But that discipline that you learn going to practice, Coop's been going to practice for baseball, the discipline you learn by going to work is the same discipline that I want them to have to make time for this every day, because it's a discipline. Quiet time is a discipline. And I will tell you, when it's a competition between what can I watch on TV, what can I get on my phone, this is the last thing that the kids want to get their hands on because it's boring to them. I'm like, it's not boring. I was in your shoes, but it's not boring. And if we can get discipline set and teach discipline, it works in so many other areas. And it helps you to persevere. It helps you through hard situations.
But I think when you do that, there's a far greater reward because you know you work through it.
Yes.
That instant gratification.
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
There is, but they get programmed to believe that, that what's quick and easy is better, and, anything worthwhile is worth working for, right? And I think the reward that you gain from that in the long run is far more satisfying, and especially if you have the satisfaction of knowing Jesus Christ, right? So, all right. Praise team, if you could come up, and as I'm closing here, this verse comes to mind, and hopefully we've scared you and encouraged you, but also know and understand there are tools that are available to you that will allow you to, you're never going to keep them from it, okay? You can't stop the world from existing around them. You can't put them in a bubble, hide them in a cave, prevent them from ever being exposed to these things, but you can have influence in how they use them and what control that it has over their life. But this verse to me in 1 Peter says everything. It says, be alert and sober-minded. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Folks, that is our kids. That the world, through that digital device, is looking to devour their soul by taking their interest little by little by little. And if we fail to control them, we're just watching the lion devour children and sitting back cheering them on blindly as if, as parents, we don't care. Kids, I want you to listen to me that if your parents go home, you can hate me, okay? And that's okay. Your parents are doing it because they love you. They're doing it because they want what's best for you. They're doing it because they want to protect you, because the world out there is like a roaring lion that wants to bite your head off. If you were standing in front of a lion, you would be scared. Okay, standing in front of that device, it is a lion that is looking to devour your soul little by little and to steal your heart so that there's nothing left for you to have a relationship with Jesus Christ. And as a parent, there's only one goal that I have in life. One, that's it. That I want my kids to be with me in eternity. Why? Because nothing that happens in this world is permanent. It all fades away. And when it all fades away and the dust settles, either I've done my job as a parent and my kids are going to be with me in eternity. Now, they have to make their own decisions, right? But I have to say that I put the work in, that I was willing to do the hard things, that I was willing to make the sacrifices, that I was willing to do whatever I had to protect them, even if it meant me being uncomfortable, me putting the phone down, me putting the limitations on, me being the bad guy. I'm okay being the bad guy because it saves their life. This is a life or death issue. And as a church, if you're sitting here today and you're looking around at the parents in front of you and saying, this doesn't apply to me, then your position and your place is to pray. Because they're raising kids in a world that you didn't have to raise kids in, and it's scary. And you can get on your knees, and we can all get on our knees, and we can pray for God to protect our children. It's a prayer that I pray every single night, that God would protect my children spiritually, not just physically. Because their spiritual body means more to me. Their spiritual soul means more than their physical body. That if their physical body fails them one day, the spiritual condition of their heart is what's going to determine what happens for all of eternity. This world is not permanent. As our family found out yet again this week, that life is temporary, life is short. And what happens with the condition of our heart and where we put it is the most important thing. More important than what happens to our physical soul is where our spiritual condition and our relationship with Jesus Christ is at. If you're sitting here this morning and you don't have that confidence to know where your relationship's at with Jesus Christ, and you don't know that if I were to die today where I would go, then don't let this opportunity pass you. Don't leave these doors without coming forward and say, Pastor, I want to know. That I want to pray for my kids, that I want to pray for you. I want to pray for somebody that I know that doesn't know Christ. We should have a sense of urgency with this topic, with sharing Jesus like we never have before, because the world is on fire around us. If you don't think that what's happening across the pond over there is going to boil over to our shores at some point in time, you are living with blinders on, sticking your head in a hole. That it will affect for generations to come what's going to happen, and it is only going to get harder. And we need to pray for the Christians that are over there right now that are getting slaughtered because of their belief. Folks, now is the time to pray. And what this invitation is a time to bring those issues, to come face to face with God and say, God, we need you because you are the only one. You are in control. He holds the world in the palm of his hands. But he also says you have not because you ask not. Well, folks, I'm here today to say as your pastor, I ask him to protect your kids and our kids every single day. And I will continue to do that, and I hope that you'll join me in doing that. Stand if you would as our praise team sings.
I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back, no turning back. The world behind me.
praise team for your hard work and effort and continuing to praise God in what you do and to bring him your best, because I truly feel like you guys are working to bring him your best, and I appreciate each and every one of you and the time that you spend doing that. All right. Apologize for getting everybody out so late. Apologize that my co-host talked so much and kept us here so long. But next week we'll be back on track, so I apologize for that. And but it's been great to be in God's house. I hope you learned something today. I hope it spawned your thought process. And like I said again, if you want to know more, if you walk out of here saying you've sufficiently scared me and I need help, come, seek it out. We will help, okay? That's why we're here. So, Mom, Dad, it's great to have you here. Dad, if you would dismiss us in prayer, please.
Father,